They wore crowns of gold. But under the silken velvet, their bodies told a very different story. The Middle Ages gave us kings and queens, castles and legends. But also lice-infested wigs, chamber pots, and the scent of rot. In today's video, we'll uncover the disgusting truth about royal hygiene in the Middle Ages, a world where even the wealthiest monarchs lived in conditions we'd consider unbearable today. Welcome to Mr. Bonin, where the past isn't always as glamorous as you think. 1. Bathing was a luxury, not a routine. You may picture a queen soaking in a marble tub surrounded by rose petals. Reality. Royalty in the Middle Ages rarely bathed, and when they did, it was a monumental event. Clean water was hard to come by. Public bathhouses existed, but many were shut down by the church, which viewed communal bathing as immoral. Private baths were only for the extremely wealthy, and even they believed bathing too often could make the body absorb bad humors and weaken health. Queen Isabella of Castile was said to have bathed only twice in her life, once at birth, and once on her wedding night. Instead of washing, nobles doused themselves in perfumed oils, spices, and powders, masking body odor without removing it. The result? Layers of grime sealed beneath expensive fabrics. 2. Toilets fit for a king were not what you think. Royal toilets were primitive. Most castles featured a garderobe, a small, drafty stone chamber built into the castle wall, where waste dropped into a moat or pit below. There was no flushing, no privacy, and certainly no toilet paper. Instead, royals used cloth scraps, straw, or even hands. Servants often cleaned up after their masters, some even earning titles like groom of the stool, a real royal position responsible for assisting the king during bathroom time. The smell, overwhelming. But that wasn't the worst part. Rats, flies, and disease thrived in the waste-filled corridors of even the most luxurious palaces. 3. Clothing was rarely washed. Wealthy nobles owned elaborate wardrobes, but those garments were almost never cleaned. Heavy layered fabrics weren't easy to wash, and many believed water would ruin them. So instead, they just wore them again and again. Undergarments, if worn at all, were washed occasionally, but outer garments could go months or even years without seeing water. Instead of cleaning clothes, people focused on covering odors. Linen shirts were worn to absorb sweat and dirt and were replaced often, while cloaks and gowns were left untouched. Some royals even carried pomanders, scented balls made of herbs and spices, just to combat their own stench. 4. Hair was crawling with lice and nits. Shampoo didn't exist. Comb and soap. Maybe, if you were lucky, head lice were everywhere, especially among the aristocracy. Royals often wore elaborate wigs, which became a perfect breeding ground for lice and other parasites. Wigs were rarely washed and often passed from one wearer to another to fight infestations. People used mercury or vinegar, or they simply shaved their heads and wore wigs to hide the baldness. Some even dusted their hair with arsenic powders. To kill bugs, unknowingly poisoning themselves over time. Even Queen Elizabeth I of England reportedly had a closet full of louse-infested wigs, and she kept her hairline high to show off her elaborate HAIECS.5. Royal beds were hiding nasty secrets. Medieval beds looked grand, but they were far from clean. Mattresses were stuffed with hay, feathers, or straw, which quickly became homes for fleas, mites, and rodents. Changing or cleaning bedding wasn't common. Some royal families used bed curtains not just for privacy, but to contain insects. Even palaces swarmed with bed bugs. Fumigation methods included burning herbs or lighting sulfur. But most of the time, people just endured the itching and bites as part of life, even in palaces like Versailles. Servants swept feces and urine from hallway corners where guests relieved themselves. The royal bedchamber. It smelled more like a barn than a ballroom. 6. Doctors believed odor prevented disease. Believe it or not, medieval physicians actually thought bad smells could protect you. According to the miasma theory, disease was spread through foul air. So paradoxically, people believed creating stronger smells could push away sickness. That's why nobles bathed in wine or vinegar, stuffed herbs in their clothes, or wore masks filled with spices. In the court of Louis XIV, some courtiers even carried dead animals in jars to overpower the miasma they feared. So when a medieval queen smelled like roses, it wasn't because she was clean, it was because she was trying to ward off the plague. The truth is, royal life in the Middle Ages was a lot more filthy, disease-ridden, and uncomfortable than the fairy tales suggest. Behind the crowns and castles were people who feared water, slept with lice, and relieved themselves in moats. It's a stark reminder. Wealth and power didn't always mean cleanliness. And being royal didn't protect you from the stink of everyday life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the grimy past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know which medieval hygiene practice shocked you the most. Until next time, remember, history isn't always pretty, but it's always fascinating.